All right. So in order to attach these two pieces together, make it a permanent connection, the outside it's going to be artificial sinew, which I have a whole roll, which I've almost never used. But chemically, for adhesion, it's perfect material, cheap-ass dollar store two-part epoxy. So I know I'm not going to use this whole tube, and it being dollar store, I don't give a shit about wasting the last bit of it, because even with the cap, once these things are open, you know, they're done. You use them all or they're gone. So put that in a little plastic container, stir it up. I'll attach these two things together, and then I'll bring you back when it's dry. Let's glue it up together. Follow the instructions exactly. Mix it for a minute until it all blends to a single color. Put it on both surfaces. Compress them together and keep them compressed or clamped for at least 5 minutes. So that'll be done in about 4 minutes. One of the downsides to using epoxy like this is the smell. Try to describe it. Imagine you beat a skunk to death with a salmon in an outhouse in August. That'd be close. Okay. Bring it back after 5 minutes when that's, set, I guess. Alright. I've waited longer than is necessary according to the instructions. Let's see. Not too bad. Looks decent. Next step, I need to get some of this stuff wrapped around it. What I'm going to do is cut a groove along here, the top edge, V it to along there, and then straight across the bottom. I think, mark a groove across there, groove across here, and a groove across bottom, and wrap it a few dozen times, just to hold it in place. So I'll get the file and do that. The little triangular files will do that. So make a path to wrap the wrap that string around. Soft as this material is, this is a very fine file, so it's going to take a while to get that groove deep. But it's started. So get that in there. I'm probably going to wrap this about like 50 times or something. But yeah, I'll groove that in there. Now wrapping around, it'll go there to this side of it. So it'll be a V. Oh, it'll make an N or a Z more or less. So it'll be around the bottom of the tooth, part way up the tooth. There'll be 2 spots on the back. But yeah, I'll get that cut in there. Then I'll start wrapping. Then I'll show you how I'm going to wrap it. Much as with most of the projects I do where I have any artistic license or creative freedom, there is not much of an actual plan here. So after this, I got to figure out how to wrap the handle. Well, once I've sanded it down a bit better. But I do like this rough texture here because it's pretty, barbaric looking. So let's wrap this up. Get me in a better position to view what's going on. And then get myself in a better position to actually do this kind of work. There. As I said, I have seldom ever used this stuff. It seems this locking mechanism on this bag is not of the best quality. There we go. Yeah, it's a waxed cord that is meant to resemble natural sinew. It does a reasonable job. It looks like natural sinew, even though it isn't. And it is heavily waxed. Okay, so get a length of that cut and then wrap it around. Let's see, well, what do I think? See what once around looks like for length, and then figure out how many layers of this I'm going to do. So what we got once around is about 17 inches. So, whoop. There would be twice. There would be 4 times. I think 6 times around might do it. Just for the sake of argument, 6 times around. I'll get a little extra for tying. As far as finishing, either a handle wrap or beeswax maybe. Who knows? First, let's just see. How about a slip knot to start? I'll figure out the end of it when I get to the end of it. I'll be pulling that way, so wrap that around, that tail around it, so yeah, wrap that tail around so it's not hanging loose. See how this is going to look. Try and keep it flat so it is more visible. think it's going to look pretty good. If I heat this up, warm this up a little bit so the wax melts into it. It would actually solidify into itself, which it may well do. A little job with a heat gun. The groove is certainly proving deep enough. The question always comes to me again and again looking at this. Why wouldn't prehistoric people have done this? And I then think to myself, well, it's entirely possible that stone tools were just easier to make. It's entirely likely, in fact, that stone tools were just easier to make. As an example, rather than having to hunt down and kill a dangerous predator every time you want a new knife, it would very likely be much easier just bang a couple of rocks together. Come on, get in there. I'm thinking another tool might be useful for this. It is sticking together relatively well with the wax. I am going to get a hook and a pair of tweezers. These in there. The tweezers I generally use with the serger. pin. See if we can't pull that through the rest of the way. There we are. Right on. Wedge it under there tight. The other side do the same thing. Oh, it's even tighter on the other side. And not having a plan for that, I'll do it over the same side twice. Not having a plan for this from the beginning, although it has some advantages for creative freedom, it don't exactly lend itself to ease of completion. Slip that back down in there, out of the way, make it less obvious. There. That looks reasonably good. All right, next step is going to be I think just wrapping the handle up or finishing it somehow. Some oil, some wax maybe. I'm thinking wax. I got a lot of beeswax, so I could just like put it in there with a heat gun. Okay, let's get that ready. Now, came to a realization, a couple of realizations. I'm looking at the beeswax and realized, one, this would be Paleolithic, not Neolithic. So, a lot more likely than a finished wooden piece, it would be finished through wear from use. So, instead, sanded it, I'm going to oil it. You know, this isn't ancient farmers, this is way before that, thousands of years before that. So, yeah, let's put a little bit of oil on it. You know, my favorite oil to use for everything, WD-40. I'll just soak that into the wood a little bit, give it a bit of color. That'll be it. I think it's pretty good. Let's see what color it turns out with a little WD on it. I know it's not going to affect the plastic any. Rag weight that down. One of these will do. Actually, it looks really nice. But I've said before about if you take care of your tools, they last forever. Imagine being able to use this as an example. Here we are. Clean, oiled, and ready to carve up a mammoth. It's nice for a fantasy piece. Maybe I'll sell it, maybe I'll hang it on the wall like a trophy or something. I used to do that with decorative art pieces like this. Most of them, like much as these, were old props and pieces of props and costumes and stuff that had been thrown away when I was doing film work. They were scraps. So now I have a Paleolithic fantasy dagger that never existed or is never documented to have been made. Alright, let's see what kind of project I come up with for you next time. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this type of thing. Give me comments, give me ideas for what to do next. Talk to you next time.